I asked on Twitter what types of content and plugins people might like for Eleventy, and a number of people mentioned they want something that helps them to grab data from a content management system. In fact, a number of people mentioned WordPress in particular. So this morning I've installed WordPress for the first time in ages. I've got my blank empty Eleventy boilerplate here, and I figured out where their API endpoint is. So this has the default post. I'm going to add a bunch more posts and show you how to collect data from here using Eleventy.
Okay, so the first thing we want to do is to create a data directory, and you can see that the input directory is src. So we're going to want to go in there and create a data directory here, and that will just be underscore data. And then inside that, we want to create a file. We're going to call this one WordPress.js. And this will be like a key that we can then use in our index file. So we'll be able to say, hopefully, WordPress.posts. So let's first of all fetch that data. So what we want here is module exports, and we want this to be a function. And more than that, we actually want this to be an async function. So in here, this is where we'll fetch the post data from the API, and then we'll return posts.
So you see I've made this an object because eventually we might want to return pages and other content types as well. For fetching data, I'm going to use node fetch, and there's another library that I'm going to install as well. So just down here, I'm going to say npm install node fetch, and I'm also going to install this Jamshop Eleventy filter dump thing, which will let us debug the data, something I made the week before. So let's install that. And I'll also run npm install to install any other dependencies that were in there. And then we can use fetch. So the first thing we're going to want to do is require fetch, and I'll just pop that at the top of the file here. And then what we need to do is we get a result from fetch. So we'll call that res, and then we'll say await fetch. And then we want the URL from here, and I forgot the equals sign. So we have res equals await fetch, and then our posts API endpoint. And then we want to parse that as JSON, so we can say const posts equals await res.json. Got it. All right, so hopefully now we should be able to get that data. To that, I'm just going to just dump this now. I need to add that to the Eleventy file as well so that we can use that one. So what I'll do is I'll open up eleventy.js here, and I want to say dump filter equals require that one. And then I want to add a filter, and that will be dump, and the function will be not document type, dump filter. All right, that should be good to go. Let's give that a test. So we should be able to run npm start now. It's going to start a server on localhost 8080, and you can see it's outputting all of the content of the test pages that I created. What we want to do now is generate a page for each of these posts, and we're going to start somewhat counterintuitively by deleting the posts folder. The reason being that this is not a standard Eleventy collection. We're using data to generate these pages. So for that we need to use a trick of pagination, and we'll start with a posts njk nunjucks file. And we'll use a little trick with pagination and front matter to do that. So I'm just going to copy in something that I did, I tested off screen, and that is the pagination front matter here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the data from WordPress posts. I'm going to have a size of 1, so I'm looking at like a single item, and I'll generate a URL for each of those items. I'm going to give the item, each item an alias of post, so I can refer to it. And here I'm using this slug to generate the page. And then we can use that in the template as well. So I can say hello, and then I should be able to say post.title, And I'm looking over at the thing there and I can see it's title.rendered. So we should be able to see that now. If we look in posts, you can see that it's generated one for each of the test posts. And we were able to use the title there in the body as well. So you can, of course, use all of the other keys that you have in the API. And that's the basis of how you connect Eleventy to an API like WordPress. And obviously there's a lot more that we could look at, but that's the basis of it. You just need a data folder and you need an asynchronous function to fetch that data. One final word before I go. One thing that's tripped me up a couple of times is this function here can be async, but what you return, that needs to be static data.